Ladies, gentlemen, gender fluids, and gender agnostics, brace yourselves for a cerebral sojourn into the intricacies of geopolitical discourse, as destiny, with the sagacity of an oracle, delves into the echoes of Hasanabi's statements on the weakness of democracy.
Process, but like ultimately, because they didn't have that, there were revolts. So you have to pay attention to it, because if people are genuinely frustrated.
Why do you think most people consider the Iraq invasion a mistake, such as horrible as it was? From my understanding, Saddam Hussein was a really bad dude. Most people seem to think our invasion was just for oil, but if that video has any merit, that doesn't seem to be the case. Someday I'll look into this more, because I keep saying, I don't know why we invaded Iraq the second time. The reason why it was a mistake, though, is because it seems to be that we went under false pretense, or unjustified pretense. The WMD stuff that didn't really seem to materialize in the way we thought it would, or they claimed it was going to. That was the big issue, is invading under false pretense that was advertised to us. Yeah. Saddam Hussein was obviously a bad dude. And then even the biggest mistake with the invasion of Iraq wasn't actually the invasion of Iraq and the deposition of Saddam Hussein. It was the nation-building adventure we went on for the next 2 decades with Iraq and Afghanistan. That was like the huge blight on our Middle Eastern record. But then that's also hard too, because it's like, well, you know, with Libya and Gaddafi, I think we killed him. We didn't kill him. We picked it up and then he got killed. And then we just bounced, and Libya like fell into disarray afterwards. So yeah, I don't know. Rebuilding countries is hard work. All right, need a lot of Lego pieces for that.
There were revolts, so you have to pay attention to it, because if people are genuinely frustrated and they're not happy, then they just revolt. In which case, it's entirely unavoidable. Like then you're totally. So in a weird way, the lack of like modern democratic process that you that we look at and enjoy and celebrate is almost neutering that old way of forcing everyone to actually try to pay attention, so there isn't like a built up resentment that causes actual systemic collapse. Modern representative bourgeois democracy is the ideal form for capitalism because it tricks the masses into thinking they have any control over the government. Seems familiar? Well, I mean, it's like the closest that you can get to is like the Chinese form of governance. Even though there is obviously a democratic process in China as well. There's like elections and whatnot.
Wait, just checking. China is a country where you only have a single party, right?
At least as far as I read, the people have to, like the people in positions of power have to pay attention to their citizens getting angry, because that could lead to genuine rebellion. Is the difference between neoliberal methods of control versus more authoritarian mechanisms of control, where in an authoritarian mechanism of control, you personally recognize that you are being controlled. So as long as the government is doing things that is like relatively right by you, you're like, okay, there are a lot of stuff that I don't appreciate, but I'm not like, I'm well fed enough to not revolt against it and get angry and do something about it. Whereas under neoliberalism, you feel as though your choices matter, and you actually are contributing to the process in a meaningful way, and actually by design, it's almost less responsive to public opinion, less susceptible to public opinion, because there's always a way that you can democratically show what your discontent is. As long as you can also, especially in like the American process, as long as you can categorize that democratic structure into two neatly organized, neatly confined capitalist boxes that are marginally different from one another, it gives you this opportunity, like you are choosing something and it's like marginally better than the other thing, and therefore like you're voting, you're speaking with your vote. It's funny.
He's got like some theory here that's not completely incorrect, but the fact of the matter is probably, my guess would be, completely incorrect. Somebody said, Destiny's partly right here. Autocracies have to keep their people happier than democracies because the leader can't be voted out, so you revolt. This is a really basic poli-sci fact. I disagree with that. This is going to be I think you would be like half right. This is going to be my guess on how this plays out. This is going to be my guess, okay? if we're getting to the truth of this, okay? This is going to be my guess, okay? Let's say that this is the realm that our democracy can exist in, okay? If this axis right here is our happiness, okay? Let's say this is measuring happiness, right? My guess is going to be that for democracies, you can probably exist between like here and then up here, right? That'd be my guess, okay? To where, or here, and then I'll do autocracies or whatever. I'll do them like over here. This is gonna be my guess, all right? So basically, if you're up here in a democracy, your people are fine, and your people are happy, and your people are big chillin', okay? Your people are fine, your people are happy, you're big chillin', okay? If you're right here, people are going to vote differently, okay? People are going to try to vote you out of office. They're not fine, they're not big chillin', and they're happy. And if they're revolting, and now we're in big trouble, okay? However, because it's a democracy, my guess is going to be that your tolerance for fuckery is going to be a bit higher because you think you can still vote and you've got democratic alternatives, so you can keep voting, blah, blah, blah. So you're not going to like revolt right the fuck now, but you will revolt eventually, right? If it gets like so fucked. Now, because autocracies or authoritarian things can't be voted out, you're basically big chillin' until you hit a certain point. However, at some point you're probably going to revolt, but because you have no democratic remedies, that point is probably going to come a little bit earlier than down here. So there's probably some threshold here where you'll revolt quicker than you would in a democratic society. But in the democratic society, you're going to be pushing for reformations and stuff way quicker than you would in an autocracy, because your only way to reform the government in an autocracy is to coup the government, essentially, right? That'd be my guess for how this works. Yeah, that'd be my guess. But also, I'm basing this is all a feels argument. I could be totally wrong on that. Stay mad. But also, all of
the canvas upon which Destiny paints his intellectual musings encompasses the tumultuous landscapes of history, drawing parallels between the labyrinthine paths of democratic illusions and autocratic realities. Destiny initiates his opus by traversing the historical sands of the Iraq invasion, where the specter of Saddam Hussein looms ominously. With a nod to the annals of Mesopotamian rulers, Destiny concedes that Saddam was a despot of the highest order. However, he ventures beyond the surface, dismissing the simplistic notion that the invasion was merely an orchestrated dance for oil. Destiny, invoking the oracular spirits of deeper inquiry, pledges to fathom the depths of this complex historical juncture. The gargantuan task of nation-building, especially by the hegemonic power of the United States of America, is fraught with multifarious challenges and vicissitudes. The American Leviathan has often embarked on quixotic and Sisyphean missions to construct and restructure the national identities of other polities, sometimes with the altruistic motive of fostering democracy and human rights, and sometimes with the ulterior motive of advancing its own strategic and economic interests. However, the empirical evidence suggests that the success of such nation-building endeavors is contingent on a plethora of factors, such as the historical, cultural, and socio-economic conditions of the target countries, the degree of local participation and consent, the availability of international support and cooperation, and the provision of adequate and sustainable resources and institutions. Therefore, the American nation-builders must eschew any form of hubris, ethnocentrism, or paternalism, and instead adopt a more humble, pragmatic, and inclusive approach that respects the diversity and autonomy of the nations they seek to build. As Destiny unfurls his intellectual tapestry, he scrutinized the pillars of the Iraq invasion, denouncing it as a colossal mistake based on the brittle foundations of false pretense. The phantom of weapons of mass destruction, akin to the elusive sirens, seduced the intervention under a cloak of deceit. Destiny, with the rhetorical precision of a Spartan spear, pierces through the veils of unjustified justifications, highlighting the grievous error etched into the annals of American history. The subsequent nation-building endeavors in Iraq and Afghanistan become the tragic verses in Destiny's Middle Eastern saga. With a nod to the Iliad, he laments the blight cast upon the United States record, akin to Achilles mourning the fallen Patroclus. Destiny, invoking the imagery of Lego pieces, underscores the formidable challenge of rebuilding nations, as if assembling a fractured mosaic with myriad, intricate components. Destiny's intellectual odyssey aligns with Hasanabi's clarion call to heed revolts and genuine citizen frustration. The democratic wail, Destiny argues, may dilute the potency of the age-old forceful attention through revolt, offering an illusion of control to the masses. Drawing an allegorical parallel to China's governance model, Destiny unveils a delicate dance where those in power must tread carefully on the volatile terrain of citizen discontent to avert the flames of rebellion, despite the presence of a democratic facade. Hasanabi's dichotomy between neoliberal methods and authoritarian mechanisms of control becomes the crux of Destiny's scrutiny. The masses, Destiny opines, may feel their choices matter in the neoliberal masquerade, contributing to the process while being ensnared in a binary illusion of meaningful decision-making. In contrast, the authoritarian theater recognizes the lack of personal control, yet shackles dissent beneath the veneer of met basic needs. Destiny, with a nod to Machiavelli, dissects the nuances of control mechanisms in this grandiloquent symphony of political thought. The media, as a contemporary courier of the agora, plays a pivotal role in sculpting narratives that delineate the parameters of democratic discourse. The framing of political events, nuanced by the editorial lenses of media entities, weaves a tapestry that tinctures the public's cognizance of democratic processes. Historical analogies and cultural references become the brushstrokes as media paints a portrait of democracy, casting shadows that may either magnify the chimera of control or expose the underlying machinations. The dissemination of information, a sacrosanct duty conferred upon the media, becomes a double-edged sword in the domain of democracy. The media, as the harbinger of veracity, holds the power to illuminate the public on the intricacies of governance. However, it also wrestles with the inherent biases and editorial nuances that may inadvertently perpetuate narratives, contributing to the chimera of democratic control. Instances where media becomes a pliant conduit of government narratives, rather than a scrutinizing watchdog, may ossify the chimera, leaving citizens in a state of beatific ignorance or manipulated awareness. Public discourse, the symphony of democratic voices, finds its maestro in the media. The choice of stories, the prominence accorded to certain issues, and the framing of debates all contribute to the orchestration of public sentiment. Instances where media challenges the chimera of democratic control emerge when it adopts a contrarian stance, giving voice to dissenting opinions and unveiling the hidden threads of political machination. Investigative journalism becomes the Oedipus, unraveling the enigmas of governance, while op-eds and debates serve as the chorus, harmonizing dissenting perspectives within the democratic symphony. The digital agora, a modern incarnation of public space, has further amplified the influence of media on perceptions of democracy. Social media, as the digital agora's bustling marketplace, has the power to shape narratives with unprecedented immediacy. Instances where media challenges the chimera of democratic control often originate in grassroots movements that leverage social media platforms to circumvent traditional narratives. Hashtags become the rallying cries, challenging mainstream narratives and demanding accountability from those who wield democratic power. However, the media's role is not immune to manipulation, and instances where it contributes to the chimera of democratic control abound. The echo chambers of partisan media, where narratives are tailor-made to cater to specific ideological cohorts, foster a distorted reality. Political spin becomes the modern-day sirens, luring citizens into the comforting embrace of confirmation bias and tribal allegiance, further entrenching the chimera that democratic choices are both diverse and representative. Responding to the queries of the digital agora, Destiny traverses the delicate tightrope between happiness, democracy, and autocracy. The democratic theater, he suggests, may prolong tolerance even in the face of discontent, with the siren song of voting for change echoing through the corridors of governance. In the autocratic arena, however, the crescendo of revolt may rise earlier, bereft of the democratic remedies that serve as a salve in the throes of citizen dissatisfaction. In conclusion, Destiny's intellectual odyssey unfurls across the annals of history and the mists of political philosophy, intertwining with the echoes of Hasanabi's discourse. The tapestry he weaves is a complex mosaic, drawing on obscure historical parallels and cultural motifs, echoing the oracular wisdom of ages past. Destiny's intellectual journey, while speculative, is a testament to the ceaseless quest for understanding within the labyrinth of geopolitics, where the shadows of democracy and autocracy dance in an eternal dialectical waltz.